terrible. 20. My daughter's here too. She's in the back. Okay. She's supervising. Okay. Sure. Just kidding. One's going, one's sharing. No, sit wherever. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Tracy. You're up next.
And you know, that's my daughter in the back, so keep an eye on her. She's trouble.
No, I think we need to keep an eye out on her, right?
That's John, he's my friend. Yeah.
So did they label them right this time?
I hope so.
They were labeled wrong last
Oh
week.
god, it said turkey, so I hope I'm eating turkey. Not something else. Tastes like turkey. Oops, can't spell my name. What is the affiliation that we put? Wow.
You could be citizen.
SAH.
Well, for her, it's TIC. You know what that is? Troublemaker in chief.
Oh, I like that one.
You like that one?
You're just calling me a tick.
I thought it was a tick, like, yeah, like a dog flea or something.
We also have add-on things based on everything. Some of them tell me go for $6. You guys made it quite bad.
And big ones. My daughter's taller than me. She'll put her nose. You met Sabrina. Yeah. We'll see. She doesn't look as
Different when you sell.
small. Well, they're just adults.
They're already married. Yeah,
What it means is, you know, you're here as a resident of a particular community, Northfield, Sarah.
Stop where we're going.
Should have brought it out. Stop Arbors and then equals SAH. Like a key. Sounds like sauce.
Well, that's good because Rich needs a spot, and Elizabeth and Nancy are coming. But you know, it could be just because he looks so intimidating. I moved over like.
I certainly do. Yeah, I was gonna say hero. I was imitating right there. He's a
Are committee members ready? No. Let us call this February 8th meeting of the Washtenaw County Solid Waste Planning Committee to order. 5:30 p.m. Welcome committee members and members of the public. Copies of the agenda and past minutes should be on the back table there. Would note the bathrooms, I think, are out and to the left. Help yourself to refreshments in the back of the room as well. That's for the public as well as members of the committee. Quick look at the agenda. Any additions, substitutions, deletions for members of the committee? Did someone move approval of the agenda as presented? Megan? Second? All in favor of the agenda as submitted, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. We're good to go. Before opening up the first public comment section of the day, I would like to read a statement as the chair of the Solid Waste Planning Committee that hopefully will provide some clarity to the public on where we are at in the planning process. So, as chair of the Washtenaw County Solid Waste Planning Committee, I understand that there is still a fair amount of confusion surrounding the proposed siting criteria for landfill expansion in the draft solid waste management plan as it is being finalized. I ask the public to understand that there is no longer any landfill expansion request being made to our committee, and the currently drafted siting review procedures list solid waste landfills as, quote, an unauthorized disposal area type. This means that a landfill facility, whether it is an expansion or new construction, would be deemed inconsistent and may not be cited by this plan. Specifically, as it relates to the siting criteria, the language within the current draft plan would only apply to authorized disposal area types. The current draft plan defines those authorized disposal types to include only two types of facilities: processing facilities and transfer station facilities. The purpose of the updated siting review process is to determine whether a proposed solid waste processing or transfer station facility maintains consistency with the approved plan or would require a more formal facility review committee to consider specific issues. As you know, Advanced Disposal has rescinded its request for the consideration of an expansion of the Arbor Hills landfill. Let me emphasize that if Washtenaw County receives any future requests for expansion of or new construction related to the Arbor Hills landfill or any proposed landfill, such a proposal would require a reopening of the county's approved solid waste management plan to consider amending various portions of that plan. If the plan was reopened, then a future solid waste planning committee would be looking at facility descriptions, authorized and unauthorized disposal area types, and siting criteria language. I thank the committee and the public for their patience and attention to the details of the plan, especially as it relates to siting criteria for solid waste facilities. Although I know that the conversations and terminology of the committee and its consultants can sometimes be confusing and troubling if misunderstood, please be assured that the current draft of the updated solid waste management plan for Washtenaw County does not allow for the expansion of an existing landfill or construction of a new landfill within our county. Period. I hope this information helps to clear up any confusion concerning the nature of the draft solid waste plan update as it nears completion. Thank you. Appreciate that opportunity. So with that, we'd like to open up the public comment, first public comment section of the evening, noting that the landfill issue has, at least in the draft plan, been removed for either expansion or new landfill. So I ask that you consider that as you come forward this evening with public comment. Ask speakers to come forward to the podium, up to 3 minutes to speak, and if you could state your name at the time you speak as well, we'd appreciate it. So at this time, we'll open up public comment to anyone from the public that wishes to address the committee. Please.
Hi, Rima Berry. I'm a Northville resident. Sorry. I just wanted to say thank you that the statement did clarify a lot of things for me, and I really appreciate all of the hard work that you all have put into this. And I wanted to just say that I brought my daughter here with me today. She's 8 years old, just to put another face to this. That, you know, she's a normal 8-year-old, just like all of your kids and grandkids, and that this is the type of children that this landfill will be affecting. So thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Other public comments? Seeing none, we'll call that public comment period to a close. Oh, I'm very sorry.
My name is Roland Wong, Secretary of the Northville School Board. I just want to express appreciation for your deliberations and your position statement. It's much appreciated, so thank you very much.
Any other comments at this time? Yes, sir.
My name is Dennis Roper. I live 1 mile north of the landfill, and I'm very much opposed to it, and I appreciate all the hard work also. And God bless each one of you. Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, seeing none, we'll call that public comment period closed, and we'll move on to a review and approval of the minutes of our January 11th, 2017 meeting. Someone willing to move approval of those minutes? Second? Andrew? Any discussion of the minutes as presented? If not, all in favor of the minutes as presented, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The minutes are approved. Let's move on to old business, first of which is a review and discussion of the implementation plan, and we'll turn it over to our consultant, Anna, from RRS.
Okay, good evening. We are going to talk about the homework that you had. You had 3 things to review: citing criteria, implementation plan, and a new section that was Appendix B, non-selected systems, which you had not read yet, but we had talked about. I'm not going to go through the whole citing criteria and implementation plan. We've gone over it for the past couple of meetings. So what you had received a couple of weeks ago for review was input from everybody. As you recall, in the January meeting, people had asked for additional time to go and review the draft that was presented in January and provide additional comments. I received a few more additional comments, which were then implemented into this last draft. Today I received some comments from at least one committee member. I know I got an email from at least one. So if there's additional comments on either the citing criteria or the implementation plan, you can share those now, ask questions of clarification, or you can feel free to email those comments if that's easier, if for any clarification or whatnot. So at this point, and then with the appendix, let me just go through the slides and then we can go back. So with Appendix B, the non-selected system, so we had to pick a selected system, which was We want to build on our current system. We want to have more waste diversion, more recovery, and we want to support programs that do that. So by default, we didn't talk about all the things we didn't want, but we talked about what we did want. So it made it easy to say, here's the things we don't want. And so the non-selected systems were things that focused on disposal only, which we know is not a goal and objective of this committee. Staying the same, which is basically, yep, we're good, we're not going to do any more improvements on our programs, nobody liked that. And then the other alternative under disposal was not just landfill disposal only, but incineration. And so there are no incinerators in the county, they don't handle municipal solid waste in our county, and so there's no desire for this county to embrace any of that as a best practice. So those things become your non-selected systems, and that's really what that describes. So again, we talked about this in the, I don't know, I'll go look it up, but we talked about at least probably late summer, early fall, that these were things that we didn't want to see. And so now you are getting that in writing as we go into the final draft. I don't know if that's this meeting.
Does anyone have control over that? Oh, maybe up after this.
It went down a little bit. It went down a little bit, but never got done, if anything.
All right, let's hope it corrects itself.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's where we're at. So I would open it to the committee on any further questions or comments on the implementation plan or the citing criteria. And essentially what we want is kind of the head nod, okay, that when I'm compiling the draft, the final draft plan, that the language that you reviewed will go in there as it was presented or with edits as you give them to me. So, so I'm ready. Bring it on.
All right, so at this point, you're asking for comments related to the implementation plan and setting criteria?
Yes.
So questions or comments from the committee? I have one to kick things off. Is that right, John? Under the implementation plan, the plan advisory committee, overall, I want to just say I really appreciate your ability to incorporate feedback from a variety of sources, maybe even sometimes contradictory, but create something that hopefully can work. So I do appreciate your work on that. One question on the Plan Advisory Committee. You talk about a group of 5 to 9 advisors. I thought we had talked a little bit about whether there should be specific categories of membership on that committee. Was that considered, or is that something that could potentially be added? My concern is that that you could pack a committee with any number of special interests, and we want to see that kind of it's built into the system that there's some diversity in the composition of that pack.
That is a good point.
Anna, move your computer away from the microphone.
Move my computer over.
I think so.
Can you guys hear me though? Can you hear it through the microphone? Yeah, okay. That's what I was more concerned about. Okay. Better?
Yes.
All right. Should I move further?
Keep going, keep going.
You know what, and then every time you move this table, it kind of echoes too. All right. I don't recall specifically talking about committee makeup. I recall talking it more in the citing review,
Right.
but I don't remember it as much from this. So let me go through the minutes and see what might be there. And then I think then we could certainly add something that's, we would have a diverse group that represents varied interests, so we can keep it broad without being too specific, but at least indicate that this isn't just like we don't want 5 of the same minded
Yes.
type group to show up and
Yes.
be on a group. So an incineration committee of some kind. We don't want those.
Right.
So, all right, I will make that.
Brian, did you have a suggestion in terms of composition?
I wonder if to use the model of our current solid waste planning committee, for example, and at least list those interests, that every effort will be made to provide broad representation, including, and then include the various kind of interests that comprise this committee. That seems reasonable.
That's reasonable to me.
Okay.
I think it gets to what your
Yeah.
concern may be.
Okay, just checking your notes. Thank you.
John? This right here? No, it was there for a second.
If I put my hand over it.
Oh, there you go. Do you think it's necessary?
Easy person.
I just feel bad because I'm facing this way.
Right.
Yeah, we'd rather not have it.
Yeah, if you just maybe speak up a little bit, Anna. There. Yes.
All right, I can talk plenty loud, so,
I'm sorry.
John.
Yeah, the only thing I noticed, and I appreciate all the incorporation that you did make, when I brought up some wording issues last time, you said you'd look into them, and one was extension versus expansion. Whether there's a place in here for extension which is outside the current boundary of a thing versus, or a site, not, or a facility, as opposed to an expansion which is within. And the other clarification I was hoping for was on vertical versus, I forget what they call it, lateral?
There's lateral extension or expansion, is what you brought up.
Yes.
So those didn't make it in here, and I was hoping you could clarify.
Sure, so when we went through this, and then I'm gonna ask county staff to jump in and help, when we were talking about vertical, if it doesn't change the footprint, then the plan isn't impacted, and if it changes the footprint, that's what the plan is impacted. So if you're going higher, on top of something, that doesn't change the footprint in the facility description, so it's not addressed because it doesn't change the footprint. That's what they care about in the plan document. But if they were to buy 4 more properties next door, that would change a footprint, and then that would need to be addressed.
But that would be called an extension, from my understanding, not an expansion.
I think we're boiling it down to what the footprint is, and so if the footprint changes, then we have to amend the plan, or, do something to the plan. I'm not using amend is the proper word, I think. But if it's not changing the footprint, then none of this is relevant, I guess, is the way to say it.
And the footprint would be defined by the site description?
The facility description, correct.
As part of the plan?
Correct.
Okay, so it's not all the properties that company owns?
No, it's just what's the facility description. I mean,
As
so
defined in the-
like you as a homeowner could own 4 different properties across the state of the state of Michigan. But if you had something that required a facility on it, on one of them, I would only need to see your facility description for that one, not the 4 others.
And then as far as the vertical versus horizontal, even though they DEQ, I guess, don't care, could we put that in? Did we care?
I think we'd have to check if it's actually something that this plan would oversee, correct? So we can ask that to Christina Miller. Dave?
I guess, let me make sure I clarify something here. If we're talking about what's in the plan that can be expanded without amending or changing anything in the plan, we're dealing with transfer stations and we're dealing with legal boundaries. So you're not really worried about expansions from a vertical standpoint of transfer stations or expansions of processing facilities. What you're concerned about obviously is landfills. It's not in the plan, you can't do it anyways without amending. So I guess that's my point.
Okay.
Except for,
Prior
Maybe
to
there's
this-
exceptions.
prior to this meeting, when it was brought up last meeting, not all the committee members were clear that
Sure.
description is what the plan actually said. So that's why it was originally brought up.
And
And I'm still looking for clarity.
Yeah, it wasn't the fact of the matter that the 2009 vertical expansion at Arbor Hills did not require action by a county planning committee. So I guess what you're looking for is what assurance can we have, or what protections can we put into the plan so that, to protect against further vertical expansion of our existing landfill.
Oh, of any approved facility.
Of any approved
Okay,
facility
then I understand.
that already exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although to Dave's point, landfills are unauthorized, so you don't have to have that language.
And also
No,
for
but
the
what he's,
current
but
site
what
though,
he's, but what he's saying is that any vertical expansion of an approved, of an existing facility, whether it's approved or not, doesn't fall under the plan, so it can't happen.
but also the
Because
current
it's
landfill
vertical.
is fully built out, so there's
Yeah,
no
yeah,
additional expansion, even if it went, it can't go
Right.
on.
It can't.
The last cell that will be under construction at some point in time is already permitted, so there's no additional space for them to even go any further out,
Okay.
so.
For the future committee, you know,
Right.
they'll look back at these minutes.
Yes.
Right.
No, appreciate that clarification.
It was completed.
I see. I'm still looking. Okay.
Other comments? Was that it from you, John?
Yep.
I do appreciate all the work of everything that went into here and the clarity that comes with. And because there were so many different things added to it, I couldn't see if a suggested addition for, I mean, we're thinking about MRFs and transfer facilities and things like that, to add something about fire suppression systems as specified by the National Fire Protection Association. I thought that was a good addition that had come up through this process with a backup power supply. Because there has been recently, well, actually there have been several fires at recycling and processing facilities in the state. And if they don't have backup power supply, water supply.
You're right, I don't think that is in there, Nancy. So fire suppression system, and I would probably amend the language to say something like, or an action plan, because I think,
Right, you know the technology in that language.
well, yes and no, but I mean, it's something that just says you need to demonstrate that in the event of a fire, the necessary things are in place. And you could say it could be one of these things, or an action plan, or, for example, I know with, I won't speak because the Northfield Township people, but I mean, if there's like the community agreements where there's like shared fire services, you can't require, you just want to acknowledge the fact that there's different ways to handle this, and so that's what I would do. So, but I will make sure that that's in there. Thanks, Nancy, for catching that. That's why I need you guys to review it, because I'm getting a little fatigued on reviewing the same language, so. I know I caught an error when I went back 3 days ago, so a couple days after, and I was like, oh, that sentence doesn't even make sense. What else? So I'll just call out a couple things. One is, we didn't update the flow chart because we wanted the language to match the flow chart. In the final document, we would like to have the flow chart, and then we also talked about, this is purely like layout and formatting, but just so you understand, because this isn't like your ADCs, it's not that simple. There's a process, and one part influences the other of like kind of having like the description and then featuring what section of the flow chart that is, so make it very visual so that it's easy to follow for future folks who pick up the plan. So that was one thing that we will add after the fact. Another thing I wanted to call out was in the third paragraph, we talk about kind of a reference document of summarizing what this committee experienced with the proposed expansion and the withdrawn expansion, and kind of a summary of just some, that will be included in the appendix. So we're drafting that. It's not included in your draft, but you'll see it in the final draft. And then those were kind of the two big things I wanted to point out from my end. And then I did just get feedback from a couple people today, and I will make sure that those comments are addressed, and I'll most likely send it out via email following the meeting, since I just got them today, to be able to better respond to those.
And if you can highlight what those specific comments are, so it's not, where's Waldo?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, anything else, citing criteria or implementation plan? Excellent. First read on the non-selected systems. Any reaction to that needs to be addressed? It's pretty benign stuff. We don't like this because of these following reasons. It's pretty much how it reads. Okay. I think I did the first two agenda items, under new business, in one,
No school.
yeah, one fell swoop, so I think we're ready for, to get to the actual. There we go. So this would be under new business?
6B?
Yes, I don't have the agenda in front of me, so is that next steps?
Review of next steps.
Okay, thank you. All right, so next steps. So we have reviewed almost the entire draft plan document at this point. We've done it in sections, and I'm going to walk you through the sections that we've done. So here's what you haven't seen yet. You haven't seen the executive summary, because that's the last thing always to be written, because it describes your whole document. You have not seen written facility descriptions, but we've had a discussion about the facility descriptions, the types of information that came back, and where it differed from the current facility descriptions to future facility descriptions. So you just haven't seen it in writing, but we've talked about it. You haven't seen Appendix C because we're in the middle of the planning process. It's the public participation component. So it would include documentation of all of these meetings, documentation from the public comment process, from the public comment here at all of these meetings. So all of that gets compiled, and that will be put into the final version that goes to the MDEQ. And it's a really critical part that the MDEQ emphasizes, like, don't slack on this section, be really good about it. So I know the county's been keeping really good documentation of all the process. And then you haven't seen a few odds and ends. There might be a few data points that have been being updated here and there. We're still developing a map. And then Appendix D is really for supporting info and materials. So that document I mentioned about summarizing kind of what this committee has gone through with the discussion of a landfill process will be summarized and be included in Appendix D. So that's what you haven't seen yet. What you have seen are all of these sections, and then I tried to document our timeline of when we went through all of these. So we did goals and objectives between July and September of last year. We did data for the database in a couple of phases. We did an initial review back in April of last year, and then we drafted that section with a narrative and reviewed it extensively in November of last year. The selected system was done in October because we needed to know what our goals and objectives were in order to be able to define what a selected system is. We've been reviewing siting criteria since November through February of this year. Same with the implementation plan. And then Appendix A is a lot of little bits and pieces that we've looked at since April of last year through January. So it includes the evaluation of current systems. We remember our SWOT analysis that we spent some time on, funding options, and it's some other additional details that need to be included as part of the plan format. And then you just got to review Appendix B, non-selected systems. So those are all the pieces of the plan. It's hard to believe, we've spent a lot of time going through this, and now it's all coming together. And so this is the, like I said, what you've seen and what you haven't seen. Any questions on that? Okay, so our next steps are to compile the drafted sections into one document for review by the committee. So my goal is to have it to you the week of February 20th. And again, you've reviewed the majority of the documentation, so it should be, I won't say an easy read, but it should be familiar to you. And I started putting it together already, and it's kind of nice to see it all together instead of in different files as I've had it. So when you get it the week of the 20th, we're going to ask the committee to review it before the March 8th meeting. And then at the March 8th meeting, we would like to approve the draft plan amendment document. And so then with that, there's other steps. That's steps for the committee. Steps for the county and RRS is the next phase is going to be the 90-day public comment period. And so we are looking to set dates and locations for public comment sessions. We'll develop a series of communication materials, primarily a PowerPoint slide deck, something that's going to show tell the story of how this plan was created. I would like to have a one-page summary sheet that highlights what's different from the last plan, what stayed the same, and other unique features that we would like to call out. That's going to be useful not only for people who participate in the public comment, but also for elected officials in the different communities in the county that will eventually need to approve the plan. So that's what I'll be working on with county staff, and we'll give you updates at the March 8th meeting about those things.
It'll be held here.
The March 8th meeting will be held here?
Correct.
Okay. Good deal. Oh, so that was my last slide. So those are the next steps. Questions and comments on that?
I may have missed this. Did you say that for the draft plan that we'll be reviewing, we'll have all the appendices, or we'll have a good chunk of them? 'Cause I'm just not sure about all the minutes.
It will have Appendix A and B. Appendix C, which was public participation, no, we'll wait till the end.
Okay.
And then Appendix D, maybe, if we have the one piece that we talked about. And then it's like any other supplemental materials, so things might be added, or as you're going through the draft, oh, you know what would go there? The glossary that we've been talking about. We've been working on the glossary, so that would go in Appendix D. So we'll include what we have, and then we can also create a list like to be included, so it's documented that this section isn't complete yet, this is what will happen.
Okay.
Especially on the public participation.
All right.
Because it would be good to have that all together on public participation. I wouldn't want to have a part of it until we're ready to go in that section. Thank you for the clarification.
So to clarify, when you say public participation, you will have at the next meeting scheduled dates, times, places, assuming that we approve in
Yes.
March.
That's our goal. It'll depend on, if you approve in March, that'll be the factor, but I think we talked about, doing some around, doing one in
Yes.
Ann Arbor, one on the west side of the county, one on the east side of the county.
Yes.
And so we would start to look for those locations, check availability, and then probably put forward some proposed dates for those to happen.
And to be clear, this public comment period, once we approve presuming we approve the plan March 8th, that starts the 90-day clock for public comment? Is that?
I think what I envision
Yeah.
is, depending on what we have pulled together for that meeting, we
Yeah.
could set a date that will go on public comment. Because there might be some small tweaking based on feedback received by the committee members.
Okay.
So maybe like a week after our meeting, it could go
Okay.
on public comment, we could put something in the paper or something like that, so.
Okay.
And then
Start to
everything,
sort of.
and then everything needs to follow Open Meetings Act, so whenever we set a date, we'll have the proper notification and all that good stuff.
And I think there's specific parameters that I haven't looked at in a while that are set out by the state in terms of how we have to go on public comment. So I need to relook at that.
Okay.
That's part of our homework for the next one.
But presumably, at some point shortly after the March
Yes.
8th meeting, there would be a formal final draft plan that would also be available to the public online, but it will not be available until that time. Is that fair to say? So the public does not have the advantage of seeing this draft plan before our meeting on March 8th.
Correct.
That's just the way it is.
But all of the slide decks, all of the minutes record the conversations of everything that we've talked about. There's a record of that. The public's been an active participant, and that's why you have a 90-day period, is to provide that ample time for feedback beyond what has been already captured throughout the process.
And then those minutes and slide decks are on your website too
Okay.
already. But I'm thinking we would for sure put something on our website, we have to break it down into smaller pieces, just given the size of the document. But then have a couple of copies available at the county offices for people to come in and take a look at in case they, don't want to download it all.
Right.
Yeah, it's not going to be short. It's going to be a lot of pages, so, yeah, probably doing in sections would make the most sense.
Appreciate that. Other comments or questions?
What does the committee do in that public comment time period? And also then how, curiously, are any public comments filtered, taken into account, digested, incorporated, edited?
I believe we have to first take them all in, and then we've talked about basically summarizing them, just like if you did a survey, like, okay, here's the results now, what is it that kind of, what's kind of the kind of feedback that we got, and then, look at it from a, oh, wow, there's a overwhelming, people really like bananas, so we need to address that. And so there's that. And then, as far as, going back into the document, I think we need to verify, is it required as part of the planning process? Is it, can it be part of the plan document, or should it be? Because I think in some cases, not everything is intended to be a part of the plan. It could be handled elsewhere, so we would look for that. But everything would be captured and be part of public record in that Appendix C for public participation. For the committee and your role, I don't think we figured that out yet. I think ideally what would be nice is as we set these public comment meetings or public meetings, that we would have participation from the committee. The whole committee doesn't need to be there, but maybe like you guys could sign up for one of them and come. We're still gonna design, what the format of that is. I'm sure there'll be some presentation, there'll be information available, and then a chance for open dialogue. But it would be great to have committee participation that way. Then at the end of the public comment 90-day period, we would reconvene this group. We would have to have a meeting to say, we're good to go, or here's the changes that were made, and then that's when the plan then gets sent up the chains here in the county, and then eventually goes to the state. So this group wouldn't be meeting as regularly as we have been during that time period, but we might ask for your participation as part of the public hearing process, public comment hearing process.
Could you just also refresh? It would go after that 90-day comment period. We incorporate whatever changes based on that public feedback. At that point, it goes through the county system first, and then out to local municipalities for approval, or does the local happen first? I just want to be clear on
Yeah,
that.
that's a good question. Let me double check the
And for the
chart.
public, ultimately, is it 3/4 of the municipalities and 2/3 of the municipalities, then there's 28 in Washtenaw County, would need to approve the plan for it to take effect?
Correct. I'd have to look at the spreadsheet too, but, or the flow chart and Jeff's looking for right now.
Okay.
That's a good question. I might have confused what I just said there. Brian, not have it in front of me.
So while we're waiting for that, I'm thinking that it would
Do
be,
you have that?
Yeah,
Oh,
at the
please.
end of the 90 days, the designated planning agency, the Board of Public Works, has 30 days to revise the draft plan, asking you to revise the draft plan based on the comments that they receive. Once it's revised, it includes, if considered those changes, it goes to the county's Board of Commissioners. And then if they approve it, then it goes to the local municipalities for 67% approval. If they object to some portion of it, they have to, the planning committee has to respond within 30 days of those needed revisions by the Board of Commissioners. And then it goes back to the Board of Commissioners with those to be approved, or drafted and approved, and then it goes to the local municipalities. So there's like a little hiccup if the Board of Commissioners sees something that they don't like, for us to revise and then send it back to them, and then it goes to the municipalities. So otherwise, it'll be 30 days after the 90 for the Board of Public Works, designated planning agency, solid waste planning committee to look at it and make changes if necessary.
is that helpful for both?
Also during that time, we can send our draft to the MDQ person, Christina Miller, who's responsible. And she said she tries to review it during that time as well, which I think would be really helpful to kind of get a sneak peek from the DEQ to
Right.
make sure that, we've checked all the boxes. Of course, we're making sure of that, but she knows this stuff backwards and forward, so she'll know, like, hey, you forgot this, or this doesn't really address that. And I'm hoping to get that through that time period so it doesn't delay the process or add extra meetings for this group to correct any sort of things that are incorrect. Sorry, you were going to say something.
Yes, no, it's fine. So the Board of Commissioners has the opportunity up to the end to basically approve or bump it back to us
Before it goes to the local municipality.
before it goes to the local municipalities. Do local municipalities have any ability to suggest amendments to the draft, or are they given the option of either
No.
yes or no?
It's yes or no, they don't make revisions.
At that point, they have
It's
no,
local.
other than to say, yes, we approve, or no, we don't.
Correct.
Now, as part of the 90-day public comment period, or really just any time, doesn't have to be that 90 days, the county's already talked about attending certain meetings where there are the, the elected officials of the local units of government, so they can start to talk about this, so it's not the first time that they've seen or heard of this when it goes on to their meeting calendar to be approved. So that onus is on the county to kind of spread the word and get the word out that this is coming. That's what that one pager is gonna be really helpful for, to say, we're doing this process, here's what we changed, here's what stayed the same, we'll be coming to you soon. If you have any questions, please contact us. So we wanna have that, encourage that dialogue before we show up at those meetings. Again, the more we do at the front end, the easier it should be at the back end.
Excellent. Other questions or comments on the upcoming process?
I guess just a quick comment that even though our meetings have had a lot of detailed work, the overall vision of the plan going forward is really very exciting, and it provides a lot of potential services to all the 28 communities within Washtenaw County. So I'm certain, as you folks think about it, I've only started to think about it in the last couple of minutes, but the presentation of them can more highlight the, how it's building upon past successes of the Washtenaw County. The decision on the landfill can be just quickly managed and handled, and then, initiate the education process with the other communities that are going to be part of the plan implementation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the idea, sort of.
Everyone votes for Nancy to be at all of the meetings, to give the presentation. Don't think we're not going to ask you. No, you're absolutely right. And it doesn't have to be a play-by-play, our presentation at these meetings. In fact, I hope it isn't. I hope it's more of what you're talking about, Nancy, is the opportunities that's providing. We need to give a little history of how we got to this point, but that can be summarized in a lot of different ways, and so we want to focus on the exciting stuff that can happen as a result of the efforts of this group.
Other comments or questions? We hope that the county can use the available social media resources as well to use this plan as an opportunity to push out information to the larger public, as well as a great opportunity to educate widely. So I hope we take advantage of that.
Okay, that's it from me.
Okay,
I think we went through did we hit all the agenda items?
we did. I think for
Updates?
you. So updates, community updates. So first, county and state.
So this morning, we had a meeting with the Department of Environmental Quality. Fred and Margie were there, along with other elected officials from Washtenaw County and state representatives. And Advanced Disposal had some representatives there, and DEQ Air Quality and Solid Waste was there. So we wanted to get some updates and clarifications from ADS, Advanced Disposal, regarding the situation out there, where the remediation of the odors stands, and what steps are they taking to prevent the future any air quality issues. And so we got to go around the table and ask the questions along with ADS. One of the issues, of course, was air quality. We received complaints earlier this week, regarding the odors that were emitted from the landfill. I'm sure some of you were included in those emails, and we wanted to know, what the cause was. Is it harmful? And basically, air quality has been monitoring, the Air Quality Division along the EPA has been monitoring along the perimeter of the landfill. The odors are in violation because they do get strong. They were given a letter last December 16th, regarding the odors. And that the odors have a very low threshold for odor. The gases have a very low threshold for odor. However, the long-term and short-term health effects of the thresholds are much higher. So basically, you can smell it, but it was never to the point, according to DEQ, that it would cause long-term or short-term health effects to those downstream. But the bottom line is that it was still in violation of DEQ's air quality and solid waste laws. So Advanced has launched a website called www.arborhills.info. This was requested or brought up last December. We finally have ADS to provide us a little presentation this morning regarding this website, but it gives an update to local residents from Arbor Hills themselves on what kind of activities are going on to remediate and let the public and also those who want to be notified of any updates by email updates. So if you want to go to this website and find out more about it, please visit and sign up as you want to receive landfill emails regarding their activities. They also will be installing a flare have it installed by next Friday, hopefully, to off-gas when the odors are being emitted because of the construction of the gas removal system that they're upgrading. So the flare that they have been permitted will be installed by next Friday. So hopefully, in the next few weeks, we'll get hopefully 0 complaints over the odor issue. However, they've been receiving fewer notices. They've been working on remediation of the odor issue and have made some strides in long-term solutions in terms of putting wells in and repairing wells and also monitoring fugitive gases underground and above ground also from the landfill. So DEQ wanted to share that information with the elected officials because they get called by a lot of folks and want to know from the DEQ themselves and also from ADS what kind of activity is going on at the landfill. So it was very informative. So if you visit the website, or Margie and Fred can also inform the residents also what proceeded today and what to expect in the future. Please feel free to contact Northville or us, or go to the website to find out more information on what kind of activities are going on. So it was very helpful and got some of the myths and facts straightened out of the landfill that we've been hearing. So we wanted to make sure that what we hear is valid. So
Was that a public meeting?
Yes, it was a public.
So will there be minutes of that?
Yes, there are minutes of that meeting.
Is that something that could be shared on the county
Probably not on the time tape,
But-
but they'll be available on request.
upon request?
Yeah, the minutes will be available upon request.
Okay.
So, so we'll hold, if needed, another meeting like that to clarify any activities that are going on. There will be no more permits issued for the existing footprint of the plan that's, or the landfill that's in our plan. They ran out of area basically, so the permit that they have right now will last them for the life of the existing location between Napier and 6 Mile utility poles and the railroad tracks. So that's their only active area that they can use for landfill disposal. So.
Any questions from the committee? John?
Yeah, I had heard, and I guess it helps explain why Advanced would be installing the flare, that Advanced bought the interest or bought the company of Republic, because the gas issue was a Republic issue, right?
Yes, Dave, you want to just clarify that?
Advanced disposal as of as of Friday, has taken over full control of the gas system from Republic, as well as Arbor Hills East from Republic. Republic is no longer involved with the Arbor Hills facility.
Brian, if you would like, I did talk to Jim Fry about an update from the Governor's Recycling Council.
Yes.
And the Solid Waste, this was SAP group, which I don't remember what the acronym stands for, Solid Waste Advisory Committee, at the state level. So I just have a few brief
So
updates.
are you good, Jeff?
Yeah.
On your update? Yes, please.
So Jim Fry, who was here last month, is one of the co-chairs of the Governor's Recycling Council. And here's a couple of updates. So the GRC is about to release a 25-page report of recommendations. At the same time, the SWISAP group, that's been focusing more on the solid waste planning process in the state, is also going to release a report on recommended changes to Part 115, which is what we're all here for, is because that's what regulates solid waste management planning. From what I understand, it's not much has changed from information that was released last year, that there was a public comment time over the summer, and there was a lot of suggested changes to, how, instead of calling it solid waste management planning, calling it sustainable materials management, things like that. So not a lot of those recommendations currently have changed, but they're going to be released. And so the Governor's Recycling Council continues to stress like benchmark standards for communities to meet. Both groups are looking for recommendations for funding, or looking to put forward recommendations for funding mechanisms to help fund infrastructure in the state, and also community grants that would allow programs to get going. So Jim's estimate is that between now and May, there is an effort to draw up legislation that would include both changes for Part 115 that have been recommended, and also some of these Governor's Recycling Council recommendations. So expect to hear some more news. The Michigan Recycling Coalition Conference will be up in May, which will be in East Lansing, will be a place where a lot of this information will be shared and converged. And we have a Governor's Recycling Summit as part of that. It's not just recycling professionals in the industry, it's also general public's welcome to come. Legislation gets drafted up, so what does that mean? Is all the work that we've just been doing get thrown out the window? No, they think it would be at least a couple of years before any changes were actually implemented up to the planning process. So the work that we're doing here is good and good groundwork for future changes. Absolutely. And really, even if there's changes at the state level, we know that you are influencing what's going to happen here in the county for the next. You're driving what's going to happen here, and I think that is really important. So if there's changes at the state level, great. That'll help everything. I think it'll help a lot of the conversations we've had over the past year and a half. Plus, so anyway, that's the update that Jim was able to provide me.
Comments or questions on that? I have one. Do you know if those recommendations will have the endorsement of the Snyder administration as they are released? Or are these kind of independent recommendations that may or may not enjoy the support of the governor's office?
I don't know for sure. My guess is the Governor's Recycling Council was appointed by the governor, so I'm going to assume he has some blessing over that. The other group, I'm not as sure about, so I can find out and get back to you, maybe just shoot an email to the committee. But that's probably why there's this, the recommendations are about to come out, because probably somebody higher up than them needs to review and make sure that they're, okay.
Any other comments or questions on that update? Other updates at the county or state level? How about any member updates coming out of the Solid Waste Planning Committee? Anything new to report? Seeing none, let's open up the second public comment period. This is general comments from the public, same ground rules, up to 3 minutes. If you could state your name, would appreciate it. So we'll open up comments at this time.
Virginia Miller, Northville Township. And I, first of all, want to say thank you very, very much. I don't know what I'm going to do every month when I stay around and I can't come here. But Brian, I would like you to read that statement again. There's a lot of people that came in who wasn't here when you first read it. I think it would save a lot of time in here for you guys. But thank you so much.
Thank you for suggesting that. Is there any objection to that? Okay. All right, we're in reruns already. Fantastic. Okay, try a different voice. So this statement was right at the beginning of the meeting as well, but for those that weren't here as the meeting commenced. As chair of the Washtenaw County Solid Waste Planning Committee, I understand that there is still a fair amount of confusion surrounding the proposed siting criteria for landfill expansion in the draft solid waste management plan as it is being finalized. I ask the public to understand that there is no longer any landfill expansion request being made to our committee, and the currently drafted siting review procedures list solid waste landfills as, quote, an unauthorized disposal area type. This means that a landfill facility, whether it is an expansion or new construction, would be deemed inconsistent and may not be cited by this plan. Specifically as it relates to the siting criteria, the language within the current draft plan would only apply to, quote, authorized disposal area types. The current draft plan defines those authorized disposal types to include only two types of facilities: processing facilities and transfer station facilities. The purpose of the updated siting review process is to determine whether a proposed solid waste processing or transfer station facility maintains consistency with the approved plan or would require a more formal facility review committee to consider specific issues. As you know, Advanced Disposal has rescinded its request for the consideration of an expansion of the Arbor Hills landfill. Let me emphasize that if Washtenaw County receives any future requests for expansion of or new construction related to the Arbor Hills landfill or any proposed landfill, such a proposal would require a reopening of the county's approved solid waste management plan to consider amending various portions of the plan. If the plan was reopened, then a future solid waste planning committee would be looking at facility descriptions, authorized and unauthorized disposal area types, and siting criteria language. I thank the committee and the public for their patience and attention to the details of the plan, especially as it relates to siting criteria for solid waste facilities. Although I know that the conversations and terminology of the committee and its consultant can sometimes be confusing and troubling if misunderstood, please be assured that the current draft of the updated solid waste management plan for Washtenaw County does not allow for the expansion of an existing landfill or construction of a new landfill within our county, period. I hope this information helps to clear up any confusion concerning the nature of the draft solid waste plan update as it nears completion. Thank you. Yes, no business like show business. So given that, any comments from the public at this time?
Debbie Brown, and I live about a mile north of the dump for a good number of years. And we all need to be educated, and I thank all of you for being here and us spending every month here with you and being educated to a point. I actually have household batteries that I save, and we have a DPW yard once a year that we can take them to, and then we share with Livonia and can take them there. But I think that the people need drop stations, even in Northville Township, to take our recyclable things. And I think that education, as Nancy says, is one of the best things that you can do, because the children and grandchildren, I don't have any, but I'm telling you right now, he doesn't make any more land up there for us to use. And if we contaminate it and pollute it all with the smog of the trucks and the roads and stuff that they tear up, as well as the equipment that's on the dump that's putting that smog into the air, as well as the gases and everything else that they're creating, it's not right for the future of our children and grandchildren. And all of the boards and the committees and stuff, if we're gonna get to zero waste, even if we could do 10% a year, we'd be there before this dump fills up, supposedly. And if we can do that and educate the people and spend our money that way, that's the best way to do it. Take care of our land that we have. And I have something, since Nancy says that she's gonna educate people, we've made something just out of recyclable stuff ourselves. And I'd like to pass it on to where she can, let everybody's minds go on. And maybe do it at a fair or something, or at a school. Thank you, all of you, very much. So I think that y'all can pass that along, and it's an orange juice container. That's okay.
All right, top that.
You know that. Well, I am Tracy Birkenhauer. I'm from Northville Township, and I do also want to thank all of you, especially those of you who have advocated so strongly for us residents who are so deeply affected by the landfill. So we do deeply thank you, and we're very grateful for this. I do feel like we have a slight victory here, but the victory feels very shallow, because like we talked about, there was an expansion in 2009. There was no oversight. It went directly to the MDEQ, and as Larry Bean from the MDEQ has told us, there is nothing they can do to stop it. As long as the contracts are right, the permits are right, they don't look at any history of violations, they don't look at mismanagement, all they can do is rubber stamp it. So what if the laws change? Whoever would have imagined that the landfill could grow to 500 feet tall? How many skyscrapers do you know in the area that are that tall? They had to buy the airport. Whoever would have imagined? So what if the law changes and they can grow to 1,000 feet tall, right? Unless you specifically exclude it in this plan, unless you say that we have enough capacity. I went to the Arbor Hills website today and it says they have capacity until 2030, right? So there's enough capacity to merit it. I know you did the comparisons. I was looking at the PowerPoints today. I believe it was November when you presented it. And it said that there are some counties that specifically exclude an expanded or new landfill. Any type of an expansion is excluded in the solid waste plan update. And I didn't hear that language exactly in what you said. So it doesn't sound like you are specifically excluding any sort of a vertical expansion or any expansion at all. I would say maybe the language could be any sort of increase in capacity past what it could be today that is specifically excluded in the plan. That's the type of strong language that we're looking for. So until we see something like that, we're still gonna be scared. Because if you look at the GES map for Washtenaw County, of all of the land that Advanced Disposal has purchased, it's frightening. It shows their intention to go from 6 Mile, probably all the way to 7 Mile. Think about that. I can't. I actually can't picture it because it's too upsetting. And when I go to Thayer Nature Center and I look over at the trees that have the little pink, plastic on them showing that they've already been surveyed, that we have 100-year-old trees that are gonna be cut down, I'm sure it's already going to happen because they already have compost there. There's nothing saying that they can't expand the compost and destroy the wetlands and the habitats for all the wildlife. So I'm still really concerned about this. They own a lot of land and it's in Washtenaw County, and Kelly Rooney assured us they are going to expand. She told us this. She met with us at St. John's. She said, we are absolutely expanding. We've invested in the infrastructure. We've invested in the property. We will expand. So you're our people. You're the team. You're the only ones who can stop it. We're counting on you.
Typically, we don't respond during public comment, but I do want to state that we, at the county level, looked into whether or not Advanced Disposal had purchased the Salem Airport, and that is not true. So, just for point of clarification, so everyone knows, we can share that with you today.
Can I ask a question? Chris Berger from Northville. In that also it says that if, once you disband, they would have to go through another committee like you. But they could do that, you disband tomorrow, and on Monday they could do this all over again. Seems like there's, this really is an empty, yes, you've tried, but it seems kind of empty, like you said. This isn't stopping them at all. Because, if you disband Friday, Monday, they come with their new plan, and this all starts all over again. Thank you. That's what I got from what you said.
Hi, my name is Dominic Sovio, and I live at 6 Mile and Beck. I have $1.5 million house. When we bought the house 13 years ago, the landfill is very small. We were told that it's going to be used for skiing and they're going to close it. And most of the people in that area, were told the same things. So that's not your problem. But what I think really is the problem is Ridge School, which is on 6th and Ridge. The children can't go out and play at recess on certain days, and I'm sure you heard this before. And how can we have a landfill that's polluting the air for children? This is about the children. That's what you have to deal with.
Scio Doshi, and I would like to thank you for all your efforts. My daughter, Tanvi Doshi, she's not here, but she's written a 2-page letter, and I'm not going to read the whole letter, but I'm just going to read the first paragraph that she has written. My name is Tanvi Doshi. I moved to Northville a year ago, and now I attend Northville High School. I remember the day I found the dump was not a ski hill. I was in 5th grade, and I went to a charter school in North Territorial between Ridge and Beck Road. We were learning what we can do to help the environment for the essay they wanted us to write. While we were reading about recycling, my teacher pointed to the ski slope and said, "That is the dump." That's what happened when we don't recycle. It hit me after that it wasn't the ski slope, but instead it was a landfill. Your decision to build another one of these landfills not only impacts me, but also affects my friends, families, and thousands of other people living in Northville, Salem, Plymouth, and other cities in the area. Please do not build this landfill. I went to Dallas over winter break, and we were driving, and I saw a sign go by, and it said Arbor Hills. I looked over and asked my aunt, "You guys have a landfill in Arbor Hills over here too?" She looked back and started laughing. "No, this Arbor Hills is a nature conservatory." And I was shocked. Why couldn't the place called Arbor Hills from where I live be like that place in Dallas? And it's a letter, and I'll give you a copy of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Ghulam Kadir. I live in Landfill Township. First of all, I really appreciate your service. You know, you have been spending a lot of hours. I'm pretty sure these are not the only hours that you're spending on this issue. You have worked beyond these hours, and I really commend that. And you have really been very, very helpful. The expansion is expansion, whether it's vertical or whether it's horizontal, and it's still really going up. You know, if you ask all of these people who are living close by, and I have personally asked a lot of them, why did you buy the house here? And most of them were told that this thing is just going to be capped, it's going to be ski slope pretty soon, and that obviously was not true. If it keeps on going up, whether we like it in Northville or not, it's going to, you know, eat us alive. It is going to make us sick. It is going to shorten our life. You know, one of the things which you're doing, one of the things which I have learned in my profession, that there are really only 3 things in life which are the most important thing, and those are life, health, and hope. And if you don't have one of those, you have nothing. And what this landfill does is it definitely affects the health of the people, and it's going to ultimately have the effect on the life. And you are you're doing public service. You're really, again, I'll say it again, I commend what you're doing. And you're doing it free of charge. One other thing which I have learned in my profession is that if you have an enemy out there, you can fight with the enemy, you can flee from the enemy. But if you have an enemy at home, it's a lot more difficult. But you still have those, choices that you can fight or you can flee. But if you have a conflict within yourself, or if you have enemy within you, you cannot fight and you cannot flee. So this landfill, what I'm asking is this, that you're doing this service for free, you're not being compensated, and you don't want to have a conflict within yourself, that because of my decision, it shortened somebody's life, it made somebody sick. So please also look at this thing. You know, we heard this a few months ago, before the election, that I think we had this meeting in Ypsilanti, and it was withdrawn. It was brought back, it's withdrawn. And that process itself is really creating a stress for these people. You know, every month they have to come here. And I hope that this does not continue in its terms. And the last thing that which I would want to mention is all of us are pro something. We're pro-life, pro-business. But in this particular situation, those two concepts, they collide with each other. If you're pro-life and you let this landfill expand, you're really not pro-life. You can scream as loud as you can for being a pro-life, but you're not. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Naziha, I'm a Northville resident also, and I'm not gonna reiterate too much of what everybody said, because I do appreciate all your time, but the only thing I'm really concerned about is what Tracy said. We do need an explicit exclusion, something more explicit than what you guys have stated, just to kind of reassure all of us that, you know, when and if they do, as Nancy and me said they are going to, that we will be protected. And, you know, just something that, my other concern is also that if and when they do come back and want to expand, how would we know about it? I mean, are we gonna have to keep coming to your monthly meetings to know about it, or are we gonna be notified, or do we have to keep digging? I mean, we do have lives, and we wanna live our lives. So if there's a way that we can be alerted, or somehow told that, yeah, they've come back and they've applied for an expansion, but please, 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 if you can just put a more explicit exclusion in there, just to protect your citizens. Protect your families. You know, your kids may end up marrying our kids. Do you want those birth defects later on in dealing with your grandkids? Think about it that way. What comes around goes around. We're neighbors, friends, family. We all live in the same area, so who knows who you're gonna end up with, or who your kids are gonna end up with, you know? So think about it. It's a big issue. So we need an explicit exclusion, please. Thank you.
Ms. Roper, I have a question or a comment. I appreciate the work you've done first, but air quality has always been an issue for me. But I have another issue that I'm concerned about, and it's the water. Is there any way that our wells can be tested for pollution now or even in the future as this landfill settles? And the runoff water I know is probably polluted, but I'm worried about our quality of water in the area. I'm a mile away. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll call that public comment period closed. Before adjourning, would just note that our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, March 8th, 5:30 p.m. Note the new location, it will not be in the Washtenaw County Service Center. It will be right back here in Scio Township Hall at 5:30. And it is our hope that we will be approving the draft plan at that time. And I want to thank the public for being here tonight and for speaking up. Anything else for the good of the order? If not, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Should I turn it off?